I'm Linda Elsegood, founder of the LDN Research Trust. It has been my honour to interview LDN researchers, prescribers, pharmacists and patients from around the world for many conditions. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to introduce Dr. Craig Hauser from Maryland in the US. Thank you for joining us, Craig.
Well, thank you for having me.
Could you tell us when you first heard about LDN?
Sure. I've been prescribing LDN probably for about a year and a half and had found out about it a little bit before I started prescribing it. I guess my start with it would be probably about 8 years ago when all good things had to come to an end and I started having my own medical issues, and I started studying complementary and alternative medicine. I trained with people like Dr. Weil out of the University of Arizona and also through the Institute of Functional Medicine, and finally switched my practice to integrative and functional medicine last summer. And that's about the time where I really started utilizing LDN to its fullest extent when I opened the door last July. At that time, as you can imagine, I was flooded by autoimmune patients. My practice is a very kind of a unique specialty practice. I don't see everybody. So, for instance, I don't see cancer patients. I haven't started seeing multiple sclerosis yet either, but I do see probably 90% autoimmunes from Hashimoto's to Sjogren's to fibromyalgia.
So from those patients that you've been prescribing LDN for, what have the results been so far?
Well, the results have been wonderful. I titrate my patients pretty rapidly. So currently I start out at a 1.5 milligram dose for a week, and then I'll go up to 3 milligrams per week, and then hold at 4.5 milligrams. And I found that their response to be fairly variable, but I think that's partly due to the patients that I attract. So oftentimes I'll see someone that notices improvements in the first few weeks to a month, but some may take up to 3 months. If they don't start improving by that time, I start to grow skeptical on the benefits of LDN for that particular patient. But I'll often go as long as 6 months before stopping it. And if the LDN doesn't work, I definitely revisit their case history and make sure that they truly have an autoimmune condition, that I haven't missed something else.
Mm-hmm. I would say, though, there are some patients that find a lower dose works better for them. Not everybody gets up to 4.5. So some patients even stick as low as, 1.5. Some say 2, and when they go higher than that, they don't feel as good. So maybe if the patient you feel isn't responding, maybe lowering the dose might be something to consider.
I think that's a great point, and I do definitely find that not infrequently that I can't move beyond 1.5 or even 2 milligrams, and that's where if you switch from the pills to the liquids, that you can titrate that dosage a lot more specifically and really, get it tight for their need.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that's a wonderful point.
And side effects. Have any of your patients reported any side effects to you?
For the most part, most have been tolerating LDN very well. For the majority of the time I've been prescribing it, I actually started out straight at 4.5 milligrams just because, the majority of the studies were done at that. With the exception being Hashimoto's, I always titrate them up pretty slow so I don't send them into a hyperthyroid state. But other than a week or so of vivid dreams, most have handled it pretty well. The most difficult part to prescribing LDN for me has been working around the patient's opioid schedules so that the two don't conflict with one another. And I've had patients that like to take their narcotics at bedtime to help with their pain during their sleep, so I've had to adjust the LDN to a morning dosage, which actually has worked just fine. Mm-hmm. And I'd say maybe 10% of the time patients either can't titrate up to the 4.5, or when I was starting right at that, can't handle it. So, like we said before, I've had to back them down. As far as the patients that you hear about that just can't tolerate LDN altogether, those have been extremely rare. I think I've only had one that said she couldn't tolerate it, and I think that's really just I didn't have enough of an opportunity to adjust her dosage to something that more suited her.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say is the best filler, in your opinion, for LDN? Where do you get your LDN compounded?
Well, it's an interesting question because I have a local compounding pharmacy that's 5 minutes from my office that does only liquids, and so that's actually how I started out.
Mm-hmm.
And then patients started asking for capsules because they wanted to travel, and it would just be easier to travel with the pills. So I had to start looking elsewhere, and I went to another local compounding pharmacy, and for the first two patients who were on liquids that switched to the pills, they both came back to me, and they were both at 4.5 milligrams, and they both came back and said, "Oh my goodness, you'd not believe the vivid dreams that I had on the pills." And so which raises a lot of questions. Was the liquid not at 4.5? Was the pills above that? Was it a filler in the pill that was messing with it? I always check and make sure that there's no calcium carbonate fillers and that they're not using a slow release form.
Mm-hmm.
But unless you're making it yourself, you never know for sure. So I've actually switched to some of the recommended U.S. pharmacies that have been doing it in other states. So there's one down in Florida and one up in New Hampshire that I've been using to try and get more of a consistent product.
Mm-hmm. So if a prescribing doctor contacted you to ask your opinion of LDN, what would you say?
I'd say send all your patients to me. I'll be happy to prescribe it. I absolutely love the medication, and not that I wish I had my own autoimmune disorder, but I've often thought of taking it myself because I think the benefits to your overall health, the possibility of some preventative medicine possibly. I'm hoping that studies in the future will keep showing some additional benefits from LDN. So I often think I would like to take the medicine myself. So for another provider, I ask them to be open-minded about it and not be influenced by big pharma and their synthetic products that take multi-millions of dollars to sell, and look at this small product that's inexpensive to patients and it has had amazing effects, and on top of it has virtually no negative side effects.
Mm-hmm. You were telling me, other than Maryland, that you're licensed in Virginia and Pennsylvania. If patients aren't able to get to you and would like a consultation, would you be able to do a Skype consultation?
Yes, absolutely. I do that quite frequently with my patients that have longer drives or are traveling from out of state. I do prefer that we have our first visit face-to-face so that we can set up that doctor-patient relationship. And my first appointment's pretty lengthy. It's usually an hour to an hour and a half, so it gives us a good chance to really delve into their medical issue without having to worry about any technical issues from a video or communication standpoint. But after that, I'm more than happy to see patients through a Skype interview.
Mm-hmm. And how do patients get hold of you?
They can go through my website. I'd actually recommend that they check out the website and explore all the tabs because I explain my practice. I'm an adult practice, and 18 and up and I've got a few other things on there that they might find interesting and a little bit of education. It's www.hauserhealth.com, and Hauser is Hauser. And they can contact us through the website, or they can call us directly at 240-670-4802.
Thank you for sharing your experience with us.
Oh, of course.
Do you have LDN experience to share? If so, please email me, linda@ldnrt.org. I look forward to hearing from you.